Hello and welcome to the week that was right here on the Legal Essay, where we discuss and analyze the big news stories that made the headlines over the last week. Right here on the Legal Essay. My name is Thabo Makaota. I'm not alone. I'm joined by Mr. Zamaswazi Mdlovu, who's a political analyst, as well as Mr. Sabelo Tiro, who's a financial analyst. Gentlemen, are you well?
Thank you very much. We are well.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, we saw this past week the news story. One of the big news stories was that of the 2,252 arrests that were effected in the KwaZulu-Natal province. What do you know about that, Mr. Mdlovu?
Well, the arrests were for murder, attempted murder, rape, hijacking. About 2,200 arrests, which is just a fraction of the numbers that were recorded in the crime stats. As you know, there's about 7,500 murders that were recorded in the Q3 of the crime stats.
Yeah. Look, gentlemen, the arrests are welcome, but I would really want us to have the proactive approach, unlike having the reactive approach. Look, if we're saying 2,252 people were arrested for murder, 2,252 murders actually took place. It would have been a nicer step to say we were able to prevent this from happening. And I'm also concerned because, look, arrests don't necessarily equate to convictions. I mean, in South Africa, we've got a conviction rate of around 6.2. Maybe the stats would have changed, but that's like one successful conviction in 20. So they are welcomed, but I still feel that we're not in the right direction.
Now, Mr. Tiro, on that score, what do you know about the rate of the murder rate in the Republic? What is the murder rate currently in the Republic of South Africa?
I would have to go back to my stats, but the last time I checked, it was around 83 people being murdered every single day. So even today, when we go to bed, we have 83 people around there that were murdered today alone.
Jeez.
And we also actually witnessed a murder of a prominent person a few weeks ago in KwaZulu-Natal, where these deaths are actually coming from. We witnessed AKA getting murdered right there on social media. So it just shows how big the problem is in South Africa.
Now, what does that tell us about the competency of our law enforcement agencies and also the competency of our police commissioner as well as our Minister of Police, Minister Honorable Peggy?
Well, with Peggy, I think he's very prominent in actually showboating. He's always there on the cameras and everything. But when you look at the stats, murder and all these crimes have actually been rising 10% year on. So it means that he's basically not doing anything.
I see.
The numbers don't lie. You can come after the show, and talk about what you're going to do and so on and so forth. But if we look at the numbers, the stats, because he only shows up when there's media coverage, he comes with his own media personnel. But out of these 83 people that are murdered, this is just murder alone. We're not talking rape, we're not talking hijackings and so on.
Business robberies.
Business robberies. He can't be in all of these places all at once. So what is it that is happening on all those places?
I'm sure it also speaks to the issue of capacity. Do we have enough police capacity on the streets, on the roads? Because these hijackings, business robberies, muggings, stabbings, rapes, and all those crimes. Yes. Now, gentlemen, moving on to another big story that we saw over the last week. We know that the now Minister of Tourism, Honorable Patricia de Lille, she has said that, no, look, I'm cancelling this Tottenham deal, sponsorship deal, this 900 million plus tourism sponsorship deal with Tottenham Hotspur. We know that Tottenham Hotspur is one of the biggest teams in Europe. Now, well, she says, no, I'm cancelling this deal. What do you know about that, Mr. Mdlovu?
900 million plus. Now, the reason why it was actually set aside, Patricia de Lille listed 3 reasons. One of them was that it does not actually comply with procurement procedures, and that it was not budgeted for, and that the deal needs her approval as the minister, and she will not approve such a deal.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, if it does not comply with the procurement procedures, I think it would have been scrapped before it made its way to the media if it didn't comply with it.
And that's very interesting. That means that those procurement procedures, remember that Minister, or rather, Lindiwe Sisulu was still the minister at the time of this deal being now procured. Yes, go on, Mr. Tiro.
Yeah, and if it was not budgeted for, I mean, we're talking about 900 million plus. This is not money that you can just put in your pocket and walk around with it.
Exactly.
How do you then go on to want to have a sponsorship to that amount when there's no budget?
And looking at the current trajectory of the country, we know that we have around 37%, 33% unemployment.
Over 37% unemployment.
I see.
And not even going to the unemployment. Let's talk about the 3,300 and something pit toilets in the schools. We still have about 3,000 schools that have pit toilets, and now we want to spend over 900 million over Tottenham Hotspur. I'm a football fan, but who is Tottenham to actually? How can Tottenham improve our tourism? That's still to be actually advised.
On that score, Mr. Tiro, Mr. Mdlovu is saying that we have 3,380 something schools that still have pit toilets. What does that tell you about how the government of the day is prioritizing the budget of the country when you're now going to take 900 million that is not budgeted for and putting it towards a sponsorship deal when you have children dying in toilets in schools on a basis?
We see these things in the media all the time. People fall into children fall into the pit toilets, they pass away. I mean, this is 2023. How then do you then how are your priorities set? If you are able to say, okay, there is a pit toilet, I'm just going to overlook it. There are other issues in the country, we're going to overlook all these other issues that can be sorted out with the 900 and something plus million rands.
Yes.
So it means that we, the government of the day, might have challenges with actually prioritizing stuff.
Yes.
Because if your priorities are straight, you would know that, you know what, I'd rather fix this before I
fix that. Now, gentlemen, just moving into the last story that we have here, and this was one of the most prominent stories of the last week.
Yeah.
The story of the escaped convicted rapist, murderer, and now escapee known as the Facebook rapist Thabo Bester. Mr. Mdlovu, can you just ventilate what we know about this Thabo Bester? Where does this thing emanate from? This guy was arrested. He was tried, found guilty of rape, multiple rapes and murder, and now he was in prison. In the Mangun prison there in the Free State province, but he successfully escaped from that prison. What do you know about this Thabo Bester?
Well, with Thabo Bester, it's a very complicated story because Thabo Bester right now, according to records, Thabo Bester is actually dead.
And before you even go into that, what we know as a matter of fact now is that this might not even his real name.
Yeah.
That means we don't even know, because it appears that he has been using someone else's name. He was going on an assumed identity, the identity of Thabo Bester. So that means that we don't even know this guy's real name.
I mean, this is the making of a Hollywood movie.
Exactly.
Taking place in South Africa.
Yes.
Where we have someone who has multiple aliases, where we have someone who's able to commit all this fraud, even within prison.
Yes.
Even now, we at first, when the story broke, we thought that he had passed away.
Yes.
Cried.
Yes.
Thinking that he had passed away, and
yes.
then only to find out that really the person is still alive.
Now we know that Mr. Bester or Thabo Bester, the alias Thabo Bester, or the guy using the alias of Thabo Bester, he used to lure women on Facebook with multiple Facebook accounts, with the promising these young ladies and women jobs in the modeling and entertainment industry. What do you know about that, Mr. Mdlovu?
Well, he had a really smart modus operandi. He offers these women jobs in for modeling. He makes like he owns a model agencies. He takes these women to hotels, certain issues out fake proof of payments. So this guy was really a great con artist.
A great con artist,
Yes, he even conned the correctional
service. And now, just before you go on there, Mr. Mdlovu, now Now, former leader of the DA, Mr. Musi Maimane, comes out today. He says, no, listen, the Minister of Justice, Minister Ronald Namula, should now actually resign over this saga. Do you think that's a fair assessment or a fair announcement or pronouncement, rather, by Musi Maimane?
Well, you can say that, but when have you actually seen the government take accountability of anything?
Yes.
So all that Musi Maimane is doing will actually fall into deaf ears.
I see.
Nothing will happen in terms of that.
And I understand where Musi Maimane is coming from.
Yes.
This thing is big.
Yes.
However, I think we are a bit hasty in saying that Honorable Ronald Namula must resign. There is an ongoing investigation and which has revealed that there were some high-ranking politicians who have not been named. Two of them, there were also high-ranking correctional services personnel who were involved in all of this. And probably maybe we should just let this investigation go on, and then it will tell us as to who is to blame. But I'd like to think, we don't have a lot of escapes. That is why when we have one escape in South Africa, there's this big hoo-ha. I'm really interested to see how this story unfolds, because I don't think anyone walks out of prison.
Of course.
There's this other guy. He was a big mining mogul, a white person who people do not actually believe is actually dead. I think he committed suicide 2 years ago. I forgot his name.
Wouldn't it be Gavin? Gavin Watson. Gavin Watson didn't actually. The story behind the Gavin Watson story wasn't that he committed suicide, but rather that he was in a car crash just near or outside the OSHA, the OR Tambo International Airport, the Oliver Regional Tambo International Airport. So this thing of faking deaths is becoming quite a thing.
It was very suspect the way that he actually died. And you say that I said suicide, and you said that it was an accident. But according to everything that was actually reported, the car was actually speeding up when it got to the barrier.
Now, Mr. Tiro, what do you know about the escape, or rather, what do you know about the supposed death of Mr. Thabo Bester?
So, Mr. Thabo Bester, in his cell, it was found that the cell had burned up, and then there was a dead body that was burned beyond recognition. Now, the statement was that he had passed away in his cell, because there in his cell, someone has passed away. But now DNA evidence then revealed later that no, but this is not Thabo Bester. This is someone else who's not yet identified as dead. So the department then released a statement again to say, you know what, Thabo Bester might still be alive, because the person who thought he was, it's not him.
Now, common cause says that no, listen, this body that was found in a cell after the fire broke out within the cell, it has been found that the actual body had a blunt force trauma injury to the head, and that the internal organs had now started or were at the phase of decomposition. That means that this person could not have died as a result of the fire, Mr. Mdlovu.
True that, and. When they examined him, his lungs doesn't actually have any smoke. And when there's a fire, the first thing that happens is that you inhale smoke. So it means that the person was basically dead way before he was
the fire actually broke out
as dead. And as you say, he died of blunt force trauma and not really the fire. So we have to actually question the people who actually do forensics at the jail.
Yes.
So
Mr. No, I'm just trying to understand this Thabo Bester character. He sounds like a very cunning man. He sounds like a man with means. This man is a very cunning man. What do you know about this guy? Because he once impersonated an ANC representative to lure women and young girls to an event or an ANC event. He sounds like a very cunning man.
Yes, he also preferred to be the one who actually does the interviews with these people, because he had this thing about him of making people believe everything that he would say, from impersonating someone else to actually coming to the women, like my good panelist here said, that he would lure a woman into hotels, into B&Bs and promised them modeling gigs. And
Yes.
there was also a Nelson Mandela birthday
Yes.
bash that was women were promised. So
Yes.
what we know about this person is that he's very cunning, but a lot of people that had face-to-face encounters with him say he's very believable.
I see.
Anything that he say, it's very easy for someone to believe.
That's his sophistry that he uses when he is now engaging with people. Now, we also know that Thabo Bester was a man of resources. Do we know anything about where Mr. Bester or how he now this guy?
Can I say, Thabo Bester looks like a very good ladies' man. Yeah?
I see.
If you actually also check on the story, there's a very prominent doctor that is actually involved in
the story. Yes.
Dr. Nandipa. She has offices in Senton.
Yep.
And he is basically involved in also claiming the body.
Mr. Mdlovu, if I may just interject there, do we actually know the full name of this doctor? Because I should think that Nandipa is a first name, not a last name.
Well, it has been reported, the full name.
I see.
We can actually get it here.
Because there's a doctor who has now come out and saying, no, guys, I'm Dr. Nandipa, the true Dr. Nandipa. This person has been using my identity as well. So not only, and this story is very strange. Thabo Bester was impersonating someone else, and so was the supported wife, because this wife has been now, sort of reported to as the customary law wife of Thabo Bester. The Dr. Nandipa, the lady.
Well, Dr. Nandipa Makudumana. And apparently this doctor is also actually married as well.
To who? To someone else.
Yes. So this is a very...
Gentlemen, this couple, Dr. Makudumana and this Thabo Bester character, we know that they have been living in a very fancy home there in in Senton, there worth 12 million rand. Do you know anything about where this guy actually takes his money from, or how did he source his wealth from? Because it appears that there was one time that was has now been reported where Thabo Bester actually held a press briefing or a briefing of some sort from his prison cell.
So the reports from that was that he's posing as a CEO of some company, and apparently this is one of the company that he uses, to defraud people.
Yes.
But what he did, he had a birthday celebration.
Oh, a birthday celebration.
So he attended the birthday celebration, and apparently he was in New York when the celebration was held, and he was attending it virtually.
Yes.
But now, why people didn't stop to think, how do we have this person attending when he's in prison? But I'd like to think, and I stand to be corrected, that probably they were also his victims.
Yes,
and
yes.
They know who this person
is.
And the fact that he was in prison.
Yes.
But this is someone who's attending their birthday celebration. They are wearing their own clothes,
yes.
not prison clothes, and
yes.
they are attending it virtually.
Yes.
You can tell that he wasn't living the life that a normal prisoner in South Africa would live. Maybe because of his deep pockets.
Of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Mr. Mdlovu.
And
charm. Now, Mr. Mdlovu, what does this tell us now about the functioning of the Department of Correctional Services, where a prisoner can now, because now the correctional services in Mangaung prison and the South African Police Service, they are saying that they are going to reopen the inquest into the death of this inmate who was banned beyond recognition. It must be common cause then, Mr. Tiro, that no, this person who has now been banned beyond recognition was actually murdered by Bester.
Yeah, who is that person?
Who is that person? What do you know about that person? And you know what I mean. But what does that tell us about the correctional services functionality in this regard?
I think, as early as it is, but it will be very hard for us to rule out the involvement of correctional services officials.
Yes, of course.
Because if the person did not inhale any smoke, if the person passed away due to a blunt-force trauma, it's very probable for us to say the person didn't even die in that cell.
In that cell.
It was probably brought in while the person had passed away.
Yes, yes.
Because
yes.
I'm thinking there's so many prison officials
yes.
around. how then do you drag a dead body into someone else's cell
Yes.
and then set the cell on fire?
I see.
Or then how then do you bring someone for that person to be killed in there?
Yes, yes.
Then set the thing on fire. There has to be other people. Yes, the statement is that 2 officials have been linked to the case.
To the case.
But I think there's a lot more people.
Yes, Mr. Mdlovu. Bunyobiwe lapho. Yes, because also it appears that the wife then went on to claim that body just as a final sort of final nail in the coffin of deceit, to say, no, I'm here to claim my husband. This is my husband, Thabo Pesta. He has now passed away. I'm here to claim his body. Just to complete that web of deceit, to say, no, Thabo Pesta is now dead.
As a side note, as you were talking about the competency of the correctional services,
yes,
I did actually also mention in terms of the report by McG in his podcast. He was interviewing a person.
You mean the podcast and chill with McG?
Yes.
Okay.
He was reporting. He was actually interviewing somebody who was close to this case.
I see.
The person talked a whole lot and also mentioned a few prominent people, and that's why actually McG couldn't actually expose that podcast. They decided not to because they actually even feared for their own
safety. Yes.
They actually exposed this thing.
Yes.
After the actual interview,
yes,
it was amazing because they asked the person after they interviewed him, how do you know so much about the story?
Yes.
Then the person said, I'm here.
Yes.
McG asked,
yes,
what do you mean I'm here?
Yes.
The person was calling from prison. He is a chiller from prison.
Oh, I see.
Yes, he actually was there with Thabo Pesta in the correctional service. That's how he knows.
This case is very broad. But gentlemen, in closing, we will keep an eye on this development because the South African Police Service has called on anyone with any information to come forth, any information that could help with the apprehension of Thabo Pesta and the wife, Dr. Nandipa. In closing, what do you have to say about this case overall, gentlemen?
I think we should keep a very close eye on the case. There's a lot of things that are going to unfold from it. I mean, if you've got people directly from prison calling in, and we've got a full investigation going on, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, and there's a lot of missing parts, there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled in order for us to understand the whole story as to what happened. So we're going to be following the story very closely as the legal SA, and we should give the people the information.
Now, Mr. Mdlovu, finally, do you think it will be now easier for law enforcement agencies to bring this person, Thabo Pesta, and the wife, Dr. Nandipa, to book by now doing one of two things, or doing a multiple number of things, including seizing their properties, because we know that they have multiple properties, not only the 12 million home that they were living in, but also they have properties, rental flats that they were renting out to customers through an agency. So do you think that law enforcement agencies can now take a decision to seize all those things? Because now it appears that Thabo Pesta would have now been trading or doing business under an assumed identity, which is now illegal. Obviously, you cannot trade under an assumed identity. It is illegal. Do you think that law enforcement agencies can use their powers to seize all of these properties or the assets belonging to Thabo Pesta and the wife and Nandipa?
They can seize them, but I have one word that I have to say, Bushiri, in terms of they can seize everything, but in terms of our borders, are we actually going to arrest them?
So are you saying now Thabo Pesta might be long gone from the country?
Immediately after the story breaks, first thing, what would you think? Let me get out of the country.
I see. No, thank you very much, gentlemen, for today's...
Before you end it,
yes.
I'd like to add also that if Netflix is actually considering to actually...
a series
or anything, I can actually be the cast for Thabo Pesta.
Oh, I see. Mr. Tiro?
Yes, no, Mr. Makaota, thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm very keen on this story.
Yep.
And I myself will be following it very
No, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was another episode of The Week That Was, right here on the Legal Essay. Please join us again next week for another episode of The Week That Was. Thank you. Yourself? No,